Thanks for joining me. This is Danny, and welcome back to my modded 1.11.2 series. Today we are going to be doing some automation with XNet. There's not much in the manual at the moment, but you might want to read through it if you want to. There's a wiki online for XNet that has a lot more information than this manual has. But you can craft the manual in-game, of course, and it's just some redstone, a string, and a book. So XNet looks like a pretty simple mod, right? There aren't very many items to it. All it is some cables, some connectors, and controllers and routers, and some facades to hide our cables and controllers and routers. I've already got an XNet system set up down here. We're going to take a look at it, and then we're going to add some functionality to it today. In order to set up our ore doubling, I've got a pulverizer and a redstone furnace over here so that we can kind of get started with our basic ore doubling. And then we're also going to set up some logic over in our mob farm in order to turn that on and off under certain conditions, mostly having to do with things that we need in our inventory. XNet is a lot like working with Ender IO conduits. You have pipes that move many things: items, fluid, RF, and logic. So basically you can turn things on and off. You can do redstone logic and things like that. The difference is that we have these connectors and we have pipes. Connectors are tile entities that connect to things. So things like inventories, things that need RF, and also inventories. Our network controller, and anything that we want to interact with in our network. The pipes are just kind of dumb pipes. Like, all they do is allow you to pass information from one connector, from the connectors to the controller. One really nice thing about the pipes in this mod is that they are not tile entities, meaning they do not tick. So they don't cause TPS problems on servers. They're just blocks. And what's nice about that too is that if you have a really long network that spans many chunks, you don't even have to have all the chunks loaded. You only have to have the chunks loaded that have the connectors in them. So you can have pipes running through unloaded chunks far away, and as long as the connectors are loaded, everything will work as expected. So the other big difference between this and other pipes from other mods and conduits from Ender IO is that rather than clicking on the connectors or doing things with the connectors in order to set your input output and all of your different settings, everything is all controlled in one place, and that is the controller. So the controller is the one block that you need for your network. Every network needs one controller, and exactly one controller, no more, no less. And it's basically like the little computer that has access to your entire network and allows you to set up channels for items, RF, fluids, and logic to pass through. There are multiple different types of channels, of course. They correspond to the different things that can pass through the network. We have an energy channel, or energy type of channel. We have a logic channel. We have an RFTools storage channel, which there's no documentation on yet, so I don't know what that does. We have an XNet item channel, and then we have a fluid channel, and then back to the energy channel. So each controller gives you up to 8 channels that you can use, and you specify what you want that channel to be. So let's say we wanted channel 4 to be a logic channel. We would click on channel 4 that's unused, and we would say create, and now we have this channel. And we can give the channel a name, but the name is not really relevant until we get into routing between networks. So I have one energy channel, and I have 2 item channels. The energy channel is probably the easiest channel to work with. All you really have to do is extract energy from a source. So when you so let's say we want to interact with this block. When you first create it, the default is insert, so we're inserting RF. We can set priority. We can set a max insertion rate, so we can say that, well, we only want to give this thing 100 RF per tick. If it needs any more than that, we're going to throttle it. And we can toggle between insert and extract. So in this case, we're extracting from a power cell. That's the only thing we're extracting from in this network. And then everywhere else, we're just inserting into all these things. I don't have any priority set up for this network. It's just whatever power we have, we're taking it out and we're powering all the things in our network that need to be powered. So anywhere that we have a connector connected, we can power that device with our XNet system. Channel 2 is an item channel. This is a little bit more complicated because we're doing some filtering and such here. So, but the same concept applies. You create your item channel, and then you click on the the little button that corresponds with the channel and the block that you want to interact with. In this case, we are extracting just this item from an Actual Editions Empowerer. We have a filter set up that we did 2 episodes ago, I believe. We are inserting into that chest, which happens to be the chest that's pulling items into our RS system. And everything else is extracting. So really all this channel is doing is it's pulling things from all these other inventories, inserting them into this inventory. So that's actually pretty simple, right? Then this channel, which we also set up 2 episodes ago, is a little bit more complicated because we're extracting from a chest and we're inserting into these 5 different blocks. Here again, we've got filters. So we're inserting just this block into this thing, and we have a priority of 1. So this is the first time that we're using priorities, and what the priority does is very similar to an Ender.io item conduit priority. It says, first try to do this, and then try to insert into things that have lower priorities. Pretty simple, right? So today we're going to make this channel a little bit more complicated. We're extracting from all these different inventories, and we're inserting into this one chest. I'm going to change it so that we will now be inserting some things into this pulverizer and extracting some things from this redstone furnace. And then everything else is going to go into that chest. So the connectors, when you place them, they look just like cables, except that they have that thing on the end of whatever thing it can connect to. So like if we just place a connector out here where it's not connecting to anything, it just looks like another cable. And it'll have a dark appearance showing that, hey, I'm a connector, but I'm not connected to anything. So in this case, I'm going to put that there, and we can see that the connector connects to a regular cable, and it's the same color as the regular cable when it's actually connected to something. And we'll put that there, and now those 2 are connected to our network. So now if we look in our controller, we will see those 2 machines right here. Now what we're going to do, we're going to say we want to insert into this machine, but we only want to insert certain things. We want to insert iron ore, nickel ore, and by default it is whitelist. It says BL, but that just is the button that you click to enable the blacklist. So when that's not recessed, it means that whitelisting is enabled. And an empty whitelist, like most things, even though it's kind of a false thing. Oh, that's furnace. You know what? This is not what I want to do here. I want to insert into the pulverizer. Oh, and we have to raise the priority. So now whenever one of these items gets extracted from any inventory in our network, it's going to end up in this pulverizer. And then from the furnace, we're actually just going to extract. And we might as well extract stacks. When you're extracting, you can specify whether you want to extract a single item at a time or an entire stack at a time. And you can also specify how fast you want it to extract. So for a regular connector, we're using just regular connectors here. The fastest that we can extract is once every 20 ticks, which is once a second. And we can do it slower if we want to. We can say 60, 100, 200, which could help with TPS problems if you're having a lot of TPS lag. That could help with that, or if there's some other reason you want things to extract more slowly. If we use the advanced connectors as opposed to the regular connectors, the advanced connectors are obviously more expensive. They are the regular connectors with the Ender Pearl, Diamond, and Redstone. But they do allow more RF to pass through. The regular connectors have a max of 10,000 RF per tick, I believe. Yeah, 10,000 RF per tick. The advanced ones allow 100,000 RF per tick. And that's per connector. So if we had multiple connectors connected to this thing, we could theoretically pull more RF. Oh, that reminds me, we do also want to power these guys. So we can power them, of course, through the same connector. We don't have to have different connectors. And that's actually the other thing that makes this similar to Ender.io. So we can create, insert. This is on the power channel, or the energy channel. And now if we look, these guys should be filling up with power. Hooray! So we're inserting into this top. So we might as well set this guy to pull from the top. And then we're going to have it output to the right. Everything. And then we're going to have this guy input from the left and then output to the top so that we can then pull from the top of this thing. And that's it. That's pretty much our OR doubling system right there. So now what I'm going to do now is we're going to get into remote storage from RFTools. Slightly off topic, but that's going to be how we're going to insert stuff into our system. Ultimately, the goal that I'm aiming at here is that we want to have a remote storage setup that is essentially our drop chest. Anytime we want to insert things into the system, they're going to go into that drop chest, and then our XNet system will kind of pre-sort it for us. It'll take care of any OR doubling or OR processing or any other processing that we decide we want to set up. And then everything else is going to go into this chest so that it ends up into our RS system. And then we're also going to have a remote storage tablet in our inventory so that anytime we want to send stuff back to our base, like while we're mining or whatever, we can send it back to our base and then it'll OR double and everything for us. So now that we have ender pearls from the last episode, you may remember, we can now get into remote storage. I'm just going to make a couple of those. So I'm actually going to make 2 modular storages, one for here, one that's going to actually go to the quarry. I'm going to make one remote storage, and I'm going to make a storage module. We'll just go the first tier, which holds 100 stacks of items. We shouldn't really need any more than that. And then I'm going to make a remote storage module. Now, normally, you would not require an advanced network card to do this, but I did tweak this pack with Craft Tweaker because I kind of felt like the remote storage was a little bit too cheap. So now it's more expensive. I'm going to have to make 3 remote storage modules. This is going to be expensive. 6. Oh wow, 14 ender pearls. Good thing we have that mob farm now. Alright, there we go. Oh, they don't stack, do they? Bummer. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to set up this remote storage where I can get some RF. I'm going to put the remote storage right there. We just added something to our XNet network. So now I'm going to tell it. It's not going to automatically just give something RF. So we do have to tell it that it is going to receive RF from our network. So I'm going to put this storage module in here, and I'm going to link all these to it. So I'm kind of breezing over this part a little bit because I've done this so many times in all my different series, and you've probably seen me do it before. But if you haven't, it's pretty simple. So I'm going to put this storage module in here, and now we can access that remote storage right here. So if we can put things in there, and they're in there. So now what we're going to do here is we're going to extract from this remote storage on channel 2, or from this modular storage. So create, extract. Sure, every second. So now if I put, now this should already work. If I put these ladders in here, it should get extracted. It should have extracted them stack by stack. Or we should have it extract them stack by stack though. Stack, okay. And they should have ended up in here. Because they didn't fit the filter here, it ended up putting it in this chest. In fact, if we can be really fast about it, we can look in that chest. Okay, I wasn't fast. But anyway, it ends up in here. Everything that ends up in that chest ends up in our RS system. Now, on the other hand, if I put this in here, it should end up in there. And it did. Nice. And then in here, it's being turned into iron ingots, and then it should be being pulled out and ending up in here, ultimately. And now it's in our system. Yay! So this is working. Oh, we need a drop chest here. Yeah, we need a drop chest because I couldn't put it in there. There was already something in there. So there is a flaw. There is a flaw here. Okay, so I just removed that connector, and I'm going to put a chest here. And now we can use the same connector. So instead of inserting into the pulverizer, oh, now I don't have a filter. We're going to insert into here. And I burned up all those ores, didn't I? Oh, no, I didn't. Okay, I still have a lot of ores in here. I'm going to do the same thing again. Same experiment again. And drop all these things in this chest, plus a modular storage, whatever. All the ores end up in here, and they ultimately will get pulled into here, but we have to set this to auto input. And then everything else, like the modular storage, ended up in there. So what's really great about this modular storage with the remote storage is now we can set this modular storage somewhere else, like at our quarry, for instance, and put the same remote storage module in here that has the same ID. And anything that gets placed in this chest will also be placed in this chest, and then it will be processed by our system. Let's pretend that we are a quarry and we're dumping a bunch of stuff in this chest. We dumped some cobble, we dumped all this other stuff. We can see that it's getting extracted. 1 stack every second. And most of those stacks, or all the ore stacks, ended up in here, and the cobble ended up in here, back in here. And now I'm going to make a storage module tablet. Storage module tablets are pretty nice. You can actually put one of these storage modules in there and carry up to 300 stacks of items on your person. Or you can link them to remote storage modules and carry remote storage on your person. So now I have access to that same inventory, and if I put stuff in there, it gets pulled out and put into our system. Hooray! And I can do that from anywhere. I just forgot I still need to power this thing since I removed that connector and put a chest there. That's now not getting any power. So this will be a good time for us to use the facades. Because obviously we don't want a hole back there, right? That's ugly. That is here. Okay, so now it's getting power again. So back there, we've got a pipe, right? And that we don't want to have a hole in the wall. So we can make a facade. Actually, I already made a bunch. And what you do with the facade is you right-click a block. So facade is now mimicking marble. So this facade now looks like marble. And when we look at it, or when we hover over it, we can see it is mimicing. Well, it's supposed to say mimicking marble. And then we click on the pipe itself with it, if we can get there. There we go. And now it looks like marble. I moved the modular storage up here just to get out of the way, so we can still access it. It does need power. It takes a small amount of power. I have a detector set up here from Refined Storage that's outputting a redstone signal when we have fewer than 128 diamonds. 128 is fine at this point in the game. And then I have a redstone transmitter from RFTools and a redstone receiver. So first you set down the redstone transmitter, and then you right click on the redstone receiver. It seems like you have to click on the side. Like I was clicking on the top and other places and it just wasn't working, but if I click on the side, then it sets it up for me. So now whatever redstone signal this thing is receiving, the side that has the arrow, this thing will output. And on this end, I have a power monitor, and then I'm going to set down this redstone receiver right here, and then I have a logic gate in the middle. And I basically just have it set up as an AND gate. So it's the easiest way for me to get a single block AND gate in this pack. So it's just set up to, if we look at it standing in this direction, we can see that this is side A, B, and C, and that's the output. The picture over here shows that this is A, B, and C. So whenever A and B are both on, I have it emitting a redstone signal of on. And any other combination, it's off. So if only A is giving us a redstone signal and C isn't, then it's off. So we have to both have enough power in our system, and we have to need diamonds. And then I put this modular storage up here, and I put one of the remote storage modules in there so that anything that gets placed in this modular storage will end up getting sent back to our base and being sorted by our XNet system. So as soon as I place this, our quarry should start running. One thing I forgot to do is to enable cross-dimensional access. So as soon as I do that, we should see our powers going down and we should see stuff coming in. Yep, yay, a bunch of stuff coming in from the quarry, and we can see that the ores are all being dropped in this chest, and they're being pulverized and then furnaced. And this is all working. Nice. That was easy. Now let's do something a little bit more interesting and difficult. And that is playing around with logic. We're going to go over to our mob spawning area. And what I want to do is I want to set it up so that we've got two mob grinders over here. You may remember from the last episode, we've got our general mob grinder that grinds everybody. This is a Cursed Earth mob grinder that pushes mobs into here. It gets us blood. That's the main thing it gets us, but it also gets us lots of other mob drops and XP and stuff like that. And to run this guy, we have to turn off these lights, of course, so that mobs spawn in there. And we have to run this sequencer over here, which causes water to periodically run and push all the mobs down into this area. And as you can see, it's only too high, so it only spawns things that are too high, which does not include Enderman, of course. So over here, we have our Evilcraft Spirit Furnace that spawns Enderman and grinds Enderman for us. Sort of, kind of. This guy, it just needs a redstone signal to turn it off. When it doesn't have a redstone signal, it runs. So right now it's producing an Enderman. I've got a controller back here already, and we've got a few other things going on. And what I want to do is I want to set up some logic that takes a look at this tank. Wow, why is that tank empty? Oh, because we just, wow, did that use that much? Holy crap. Anyway, that takes a look at this tank and runs this grinder whenever that tank is low. So like maybe we want it to be maybe like 80-90% full. We want this guy to run when we don't have enough ender pearls in our system. I'm going to start with a mob farm. I've got some redstone running, just vanilla redstone running over here that turns on the lights in the mob farm. And the connectors do actually connect to redstone dust. So that's pretty cool. And now I have a connector connected to that sequencer, which is pulsing both of the dispensers that are going to be dispensing water. And we can cover all this up. We should never have to go down there again. Of course, now if we look in our controller, we're going to see all those blocks. So we're going to see a piece of redstone. That's the redstone we're connecting to. That's going to power the lights. And we're going to see our sequencer. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to create a logic channel. Create. And then we are going to click on the dark tank. And we're going to create a node, a sensor node. So we can do output and we can do sensor. So every 20 ticks, whatever, every 1 second, we're going to check fluid. And we're going to see if the fluid is less than, this tank holds 144 buckets. So why don't we say if it's less than 142 buckets. So if our fluid is less than 142,000 millibuckets, then output color, are we using, oh, we're not using any, so we'll just output color white. You can click this, there's 16 different colors, and essentially what we're doing is we're saying channel white is going to be true if fluid in that tank is less than 142,000 millibuckets. Then what we can do is we can go to our redstone and we can say output a redstone. Oh, you know what? We need to do this in reverse. I guess we're going to have to do both. So we're going to do another channel that is output if we're greater than 142,000. And that will make channel red. Is there a greater than or equal? Yeah, greater than or equal. So if we have less than 42,000, channel white will be output. If we have more than or equal to 142,000, then we're going to output on red. So in this case, we want to output a redstone signal of 15, which is a full redstone signal, when red is enabled. So in other words, if our bucket has greater than or equal to 142,000 buckets, or 142,000 millibuckets, so 142 buckets, then we're going to turn on the light. Basically, we're going to output a redstone signal to this redstone. We're going to turn on the light, which is going to turn off our mob farm. Over here, at our sequencer, we want to give our sequencer a redstone signal, output 15, if we have less than 142 buckets. So we want this guy to pulse, and you can hear that's doing it right now. And then we're just going to get rid of, well, you know what? I'm just going to leave that lever there, but we'll just turn it off. So this light is going to stay off. The sequencer is going to continue running and killing mobs for us as long as this bucket, or as long as this tank has less than 142 buckets in it. Hooray, that's done. Easy peasy. Okay, so now for this guy. This guy is going to get a redstone signal to turn itself off. So over here, I have a detector from Refined Storage. And it is set to output a redstone signal when we have less than 64 ender pearls. So we're going to set up another logic on the detector. And we're going to say redstone, a redstone sensor. When redstone is equal to 15, we're going to output to color green. So green will be true when we have enough ender pearls. So I guess we're going to switch this. So we're going to emit signal when above 64. Or actually we'll do 63. So right now we're not emitting a signal. So right now, at this point in time, this sensor will be false. So because we're not getting redstone signal 15 because we don't have enough ender pearls. So green is false currently. So then we're going to go to our spirit furnace, which is right here. And we're going to create a output. And we're going to output a redstone strength of 15 when green is true. So when we output a redstone signal to our spirit furnace, it's going to stop working. So as soon as this guy outputs a redstone signal, we're basically going to be passing that redstone signal over to the spirit furnace through the connector on the bottom. Which means I can now turn that off. And our spirit furnace will run until we have enough ender pearls. Nice. Awesome. So our mob farm is now completely automated. Nice. This farm will run until we have enough blood. And this farm will run until we have enough ender pearls. Cool. Our tank is full. And our lights are on. Yay. And the water's on too, but whatever. It just happened to stop at that point in the sequence, but that's fine. And this guy stopped running too, so that must mean we have 64 ender pearls. We do. Nice. If I take one out, it's going to start running again. Nice. And our mob farm might start running again too. Yep, look at that, because it's using blood. So it was taking blood out of our tank. Cool. That's awesome. So we got that. This should stop. Yeah, it stopped. Perfect. And then this should stop very soon. Look at that. That's great. XNet does require power. The controller requires power. It uses 1 RF per tick per channel per channel that you have. So this thing, when it's idle, is just using 3 RF per tick. It also uses RF per operation. So every operation that it performs costs 2 RF. To transfer RF, it actually does store RF in the connector. So you can see this connector has 50 kilo RF, so 50,000 RF stored within it. So when you plug in a connector, as soon as you set up a energy channel and you start extracting, the connector that you are using to extract is going to store RF. And it does this so that it can transfer RF more quickly. Because Forge Energy and RF are push systems, so this allows XNet to push RF more quickly and immediately. So if you start to notice that you've drained a little bit of power and you haven't even been using any yet, that's why. But it only does it on the connector that you're using to extract power from. For items and fluid, there is no storage in the network. So transfer is pretty much immediate. Like your items are not passing through the pipe and your fluids are not passing through the pipe. They're not getting stored at connectors. They're basically just going from your chest, or they're basically going from your extract inventory right immediately to your insert inventory. One more thing I want to take a quick look at before we end today is network routing. So right now we have two separate XNet systems. We've got one out in our Evilcraft mob farm area, and then one here in our main storage area. We're only limited to 8 channels, so of course we could easily fill up all those channels and run out of room. So we could theoretically end up with multiple networks, and sometimes we might want those networks to be able to communicate with each other. So first thing we have to do is make this network router, which is made like so. It cost one of our ender pearls, so our mob farm kicked in again, as it's supposed to. So here I've got some blue network cables that are running all the way from our mob farm area. And then these network cables are a part of this network. And I actually have those running out to the farm right now. And I'm using it to bring our farm stuff back here and actually do a little bit of stuff with the farms. I've got a connector here and a connector here. And I'm going to place this router right there. So now both of these networks are connected to this router. And by the way, you do not want to let your cables touch between different networks, especially if they're the same color cable, because they will connect. And you will end up with a network that has more than one controller, which is bad news. It won't work properly. So we want to have a router in between them, or, if you want the cables to run in the same area, if you have two networks that are really close to each other, you'll want to use different colored cables so that they don't connect. So in this case, we set up this router, and now we right click on it, and we don't see any channels. And the reason we don't see any channels is because we haven't given any of our channels any names. So when we created our channels, you may remember that we have this little channel name up here, which is specifically for network routing. So if we want to give this channel the name item 1, this is our main item network. This is our main item channel. This is the one that's pulling things back into our chest that goes into our refined storage system, which I currently have blacklisting canola so that it doesn't pull canola from our farm, which is using the same network right now. And then this is also where we have our ores being pulled at a higher priority. And then I've also got stuff for our farms going on out here too, which are processing the canola. So I've given this thing a name. Now we go down here and we check out our router. We can see that we've got a channel called item 1. Hooray! But it's only one channel. And now we need to do the same thing in our mob farm Evilcraft network. So out here, I'm going to take this channel. This is our main item channel, where that's pulling all of our stuff out of the mob farms and dropping it into that chest, which is pulling stuff into our refined storage system. So we're going to give this one the same name. So you have to give the two channels the same name, and they will automatically be able to communicate with each other. So then what we can do is we can save ourselves a little bit of RS here, or a little RF or whatever, by removing that importer, because we won't really need it anymore because we're now connected to the rest of our XNet network. So we no longer have to insert into this chest, so we can just get rid of that altogether. So now we're only extracting stuff on this network and it has nowhere to go, right? Well, it soon will have someplace to go. So now we can see that we have two channels. They're both called item 1, and then we can give them local name, or we can give them names within the router. Now the reason these are both showing up as local channels is because they're both connected directly to the router. The router allows you to connect up to 6 channels, one on each side. I mean, not channels, up to 6 networks, one on each side. If we wanted to connect more, or if we wanted to have one of the routers over there, we could. And channels in the other routers will show up over here. But we'll still be able to connect them the same way, and it'll work exactly the same. The only difference is that the cables to connecting the routers are a little bit more expensive. And of course, you have to create another router, which is, added expense. You have to make routing network cables in order to connect routers, which are a little bit more expensive than the regular network cables. So now if we put our solidified experience in here, it goes away. Or if we put anything in here, like if the mob drops come in, they go away. And they actually end up being pulled into our main item system, or our main item network and our main XNet system. There's one feature we haven't looked at yet, and that is the ability to control the amount of items. So when we extract, the amount of items in the destination inventory to keep, and also the max amount in the destination inventory. So these are kind of the same, except one is on the sending side and the other's on the receiving side. And basically what this means is that when we extract from this chest, we only want to make sure that our destinations, the ones that we're inputting into, only keep this much inventory, and that everything else just stays in this chest. And it's kind of the same thing on the insert side. So this is saying we only want to keep this much. We only want to pull this many items into this chest. So for demonstration purposes, just for fun, I'm going to put a couple of mini chests up here. So one of the mini chests we're going to extract from. And the other one we're going to insert into with a maximum amount and destination of 5. And we're going to set the priority to 20, so that it's higher than anything else on the network. So what's going to happen, actually, it's probably already got 5 silver ingots in it. So, because it's part of the same network, so when stuff was pulled out of our redstone furnace, the highest priority chest was this one. So it put it in there until it reached 5. And if we take stuff out, it's going to fill it up again until it reaches 5. So that is it for today, although we will be continuing to play with XNet in future episodes. The next episode is going to be about a little mod called Personal Cars. I've already been playing with this one a little bit, and we're just going to see how that works and play around with it and have some fun. It's a really fun, simple mod. And then after that, we're going to look at airships from Vicecraft Airships. And those 2 episodes are probably going to be pretty short. And then after that, we'll get back into our regular normal length episodes. And the next one we're probably going to do is going to be RFTools. We're going to improve our personal storage that we carry around with us. And we'll probably get into teleportation and some other fun stuff from RFTools. So I do hope you join me for that. Of course, if you do have any questions at all about XNet or anything else, please feel free to leave them in the comment section below. And if you did enjoy this, don't forget to click the like button and enjoy me next time. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.